these Franks were actually a Teutonic tribe, which means they were
German.
good. Yeah, somebody's listening. So, so therefore, the French are in fact
German.
very good. Now that's good background information. So,
Wasn't this the same quiz last time you were here?
more than likely.
Okay.
So well, he wasn't here, and I think he'd probably already skedaddled. So it all starts in Northern Europe. In those days, the law was primogeniture, which meant if you were the eldest son, you got everything. And if you weren't a son or the eldest, you got
This.
pretty much nothing. So
German. I'm sorry.
no, Welsh. So this dude running around, well, he was running around because he was not an eldest son. His name was Guy. But remember, the Franks are kind of French as well, and so you may refer to him as Guy. So Guy was running around North France, Northern Europe, looking for something to do because not being an eldest son, not inheriting shit. We don't know his last name, by the way. We'll get into that here in a little bit. What could he do? Well, second, third sons typically became monks and, made really nice October ale, or they became like soldiers or mercenaries, or in some cases became sailors. So he didn't want to do any of that. He wandered around like a Ronin, and sort of a soldier of fortune, doing a little this, doing a little that. He heard about the proverbial, hey, there's a princess needing marrying. She's got a castle. Head over to Britannia, where only shortly before that, William the Bastard had invaded and taken over England. William was a Norman, which means Norseman, which means basically he was a Viking. But what were the Vikings?
German.
Pretty much. Even though they were transplanted into France, they were still Germans. So there was a lot of kindred spirits there. And this dude gets over to Scotland, where the maiden and the whatever, needed very good. Needed rescuing and marrying. And apparently there was a contest. It could have been archery. It could have been something else. It could have been tiddlywinks for all I know.
Prostitution.
What?
Prostituting.
It probably wasn't prostitution. That didn't come into vogue in this family for about 2,000 years. But anyway. He got over and he won the contest. And he took the hand of the nice young lady and became Guy. And because he didn't really... I'm kind of putting two and two together at this point. I don't know if he didn't want to give props to his family because basically he didn't inherit anything, so, or he was ashamed of something and didn't want it known. At any rate, we don't know what his family name was. So the locals called him Guy the Stranger, which in French or Frankish or
German.
Thank you. Would be Guy l'Estrange. Actually, in German, I think it would be Guido der Strange or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, it's Guy l'Estrange. So this went on. This was around 1075, 1080, thereabouts. He had a son. Pardon me for guessing. I can't remember the fellow's name, but I think it was Udo. So the second guy, Udo l'Estrange, and it's getting to 1210, 1220, whatnot. Well, pretty soon these Gaelic speakers, got tired of trying to refer to the family in the family's name, calling them, what the hell is that? Let's call him in the local term for foreigner, stranger. We'll call him Wallace, which in Gaelic means, the stranger or the foreigner. So this gang of foreigners who started marrying into the Scottish families for about 500 years or so. This would probably be a good opportunity to point out that the Scottish are actually Irish and the Irish are actually Scottish.
So I'm Scots-Irish, no matter which way you flip it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Because my mom's Irish.
Yeah.
It's Scottish.
Yeah. Because around the year 800 A.D. roughly, the Irish packed up all their shit and invaded the north part of
Ireland.
actually
Germany.
Scotland. Good one. Nice try. It's all in the North Sea. About the same time that the Scots had loaded up all their shit and were crossing a little to the south across the Irish Sea to invade Ireland. So the Scotsmen got to Ireland and go, wow, there's nobody here. Sweet, we're Irishmen now. And the Irishmen got to Scotland and discovered, who are these blue little dudes living in holes, the Picts? Well, they're Scotsmen and so are we. And that's how that came to be. So we kept marrying these Irish, Scottish, Pictish chicks for about 500 years. And then at some point around, well, you know about Braveheart and all that, right? So that and the fact that we sided with the monarchy against Cromwell, that didn't really go over too well. And then that would be the mid-17th century. And then at the end of the 17th century, Scotland and England united. That's another whole story. Basically because Scotland had decided to have its own empire and it didn't work, and somebody had to pay for it. So anyway, after the last of the Stuarts, who were Scotsmen, by the way, Irish Scotsmen, including James the First, the King James Bible, that one.
Yeah.
He was a Scotsman, James the Sixth of Scotland, but he was a distant enough relative that after Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen, didn't have any kids, they needed a line of succession. And so they ran up to Scotland and said, hey, eighth cousin, you're elected. Oh, sweet, I'm the king now. So he came down. He was actually the king of England and Scotland, even though the two lands were not yet united. Very convoluted. Excuse me. Anyway, the Stuarts died out after Queen Anne, 1714, Queen Anne's War, all that shit. She died. And there wasn't a good line of succession because even though she wasn't a virgin, she didn't have any kids, So there was James Stewart, and I'm not talking about the Air Force Jimmy Stewart, this is a different one.
Uh-huh.
Or there were these guys in Germany.
You didn't leave a blank.
Sorry about that. Or there were these cousins who were called Hanoverians. We call them Hans or Huns, but they're also
German.
very good. And the tilting factor was England had already 150 years, 200 years before that had Henry VIII, who basically wanted to be able to divorce people, and the church told him no, so he said to the Pope.
He became a Protestant.
No,
well,
he became an Anglican.
Lutheran.
Church of England.
Church of England, which is
Lutheran.
lumped in with the Protestants, even though they're not really protesting the same thing that Martin Luther protested. He was only protesting the fact that he wasn't able to divorce, which is another long, convoluted story, brought about, no doubt, by
Wrote his edicts on the cathedral door. Martin Luther did that. I don't know.
Readings? I'm going to look that up.
Yeah.
Is that why I keep marrying Germans?
I'm German and French. French.
Well, he was German and German.
Oh, but wait, there's more. So, Queen Anne died, and James, the old pretender, said, hey, look, I'm a Stuart, and I speak English, so make me king. Well, he was Catholic. I don't mind. Apparently, we didn't mind either because we said, yeah, Jimmy for king. And all of the people and all of the regents and nobles and everything that were Protestant said, screw this, we're going over and getting these fucking Germans, and we're going to install them as the king. And so that's where George I came from. So he became king, and James, the old pretender, and many of his supporters got invited to leave. So we left, and we went into, of all places, Ulster for, oh, I don't know, a couple of generations. There's at least one guy that was born in Ulster, one of the Wallaces. We were still marrying Scottish, slant Irish chicks at this point. Although at some point we married, there was one, I swear, that actually was English, or at least her name was Jane Mitchell or something like that.
No, she's a Kennedy.
No, there's another one too then. Well, I forgot about her. So at any rate, we get over to America, and I can't remember the first one who got married in America, but the second one was Hugh Wallace, and he married
A German.
Catherine Lutzenheiser. Now tell me that's not German, or at least Habsburg, Austro-Hungarian. So his son was DeWitt Clinton Wallace, and he married
A German?
Lucinda Fry. And what is Fry?
German.
German, yeah. And his son was Ollie Oscar Wallace, who married Margaret Ellen Landon. And
German.
well, Landon, it's English.
Landon could be English.
Landon's English. And what are the English?
German.
Very
German or
Well, we didn't really get into that, but we talked a little bit about how, no, we didn't talk about that, how the Britannic tribes, the real inhabitants, got pushed into Wales by the Romans left. Then the Welshmen said, we need bodyguards. We'll invite the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. Now, the Jutes have bad PR, but they're still there. But when you hear about, Anglo-Saxon, that's where it comes from. So these Anglo-Saxons and Jutes got over, and what were they?
German.
Germans. They said, you know what? This looks like really good land, and these guys that have been pushed into Wales, they're pretty sucky at fighting, so sweet. So they took over the place until the Vikings invaded in the guise of the Danes in the late 10th century and took over England. So they took over England until the English more or less fought them while the Vikings were invading and the Normans were invading. All of those are Germanic tribes, so the English are basically German. So Ollie Oscar and Margaret had a son named Herman. Now,
No.
hold that thought for a sec. Now, he was never called this, but Kenny Wallace, who might be no relation, but might be, he's the brother of Rusty Wallace, you know, the noted NASCAR drivers.
Yeah.
What do you suppose Kenny Wallace's character is known as? Herman the German.
Yeah.
There must be a reason for that. So anyway, Herman, that's our grandfather, had Charles, our father, and he married Betty McCandlish, who was either Irish or Scottish, depending on who you talk to. And then after they got divorced, he married, I'm going to use her original name, Adelina Loretta Nelson,
Swedish.
my mother, who was Swedish. And what were the Swedes?
German.
German. So you can see that we're actually, let's see. Oh, I skipped a note. Herman, Herman the German, and who is his wife? Selma Neitz Waltz,
German.
daughter of Johann Heinrich Waltz, the German.
Heinrich, that's my name.
Yeah. So essentially, even though we're whatever, we're kind of German. So I love German food. Man, that's the greatest.
My mother's folks was French, and I believe they're the same as all the pictures look like the same as the gal that I go down to Louisiana when I went to the rally down there. I said I could bring my mother's sister's pictures in and
Sure.
pick one. They look just like it. Well, they came down the river from up in Nova Scotia, and all the people in Louisiana are actually essentially from Nova Scotia, really, originally. My mom's parents settled in Perryville, which is about halfway down to Louisiana, in Missouri there, you know, right above Cape Girardeau.
Yeah.
And, but her folks was in the States long before the United States was the United States.
Sure.
You know. They were, you know, everybody said, when did you come to the States? Well, she came to the States before the States was the States, you know, her parents did.
Okay, this has got to be the Charles right here.
Very
That's, DeWitt and Lucinda's.
Oh my.
One of 8 children. Hugh, Richard, Helen.
George, Girl, Will, Louise, Ollie, Oscar, Alvin, Charles,
and
and
Chester.
Chester. Huh. And
Alvin married May and then Lucy.
so which one is it Alvin Clark? Because there's a Clark in Steffi's great-grandfather.
DeWitt married Mary Emma Eaton. And they had 4
Good Lord.
children, Nettie May, Nettie Mary, Fanny Grace, Clarence,
You think?
and infant
Yeah,
Disease.
it's Irish. It's a long story. Yeah, 2 girls. Black Irish.
There's a good German restaurant in Ocala if you ever want to get down there.
Is there?
Yes.
Sweet.
They're on this German-owned restaurant,
What's it called?
the Schnitzel Factory.
Oh!
Yeah, I've been there.
It's an excellent restaurant.
Shit your ears for a second. Oh yeah.